There's a late bye coming up for the Broncos week 12 after this stretch of winnable games and the first of two games against the Chiefs. Did they not want to take their bye after London?
They did want to take their bye after London. That was their preference. The league at this point they've got enough international games now where it's not a sure thing that you're going to get it coming back. And teams have fared okay. Sean actually downplayed it this week yesterday, talking here in England, said they'd done some studies on it and that the bye afterward wasn't as critical as sort of the rest that you get during the week once you're back. So it'll affect their practice schedule next week once they're home after this game. The interesting thing is no team, there's been some success in teams coming back and not having a bye week. No team has done it to the Mountain or Pacific time zone yet. So this is sort of another first for the NFL on the international schedule. Teams have done it on the East Coast. The Packers did it a few years ago, Central time zone, but there hasn't been a Mountain time zone team yet to go from London, come back and play with no bye week the next Sunday. So
that's a great point.
They feel pretty good about it, but it is technically uncharted territory here for the NFL.
Well, a lot of it's just experimentation, like the Vikings playing 2 road games back to back in Europe, just things that they're looking at as they expand from a maximum of 10, and they haven't gotten to 10 yet, but they're allowed to play up to 10 international games. They want to get to 16. Will there be a team at some point on foreign soil, and how does that change? And at some point, you're not going to get a bye. You're going to have to go from here to here, and you're just going to have to deal with it. And I think they're moving toward that because they want the inventory and they want the games to be played overseas. Before the season, Sean Payton made a comment that I think caught a lot of people by surprise, putting the Broncos for 2025 within the short list of the teams he's coached in the past where he thought they could be special. He thought they could be a Super Bowl team. What do you see as the realistic floor and ceiling for these Broncos?
Yeah, I think the realistic floor is pretty easy. They could finish third in the division and miss the playoffs just by nature of the fact that Kansas City and the Chargers have both been good, should both be good this year, even though they've had ups and downs early in the season. You got a division with, Jim Harbaugh and obviously Andy Reid, and then Pete Carroll. That's a bigger challenge that they've got in Las Vegas right now. But that's 4 obviously really good, really experienced coaches. And aside from Harbaugh, 3 guys that have won a Super Bowl, and then a guy who's done just nothing but win whenever he's been in the NFL or in college. So it's that's the floor. You get tripped up by a good division and a couple games you shouldn't lose. The ceiling is they can win the division, and that's key because last year they make the playoffs and they go to Buffalo and it looked about how you expected it to look when they got out there in mid-January. So obviously, Peyton always talks about sort of 3 goals: win the division, get the best seed you can, then play for a championship. So obviously you've got to do the first thing first. They've got the ability to do that this year. They haven't shown they can consistently beat Kansas City or the Chargers since Jim Harbaugh. Peyton's 0-3 against Harbaugh so far since Jim got hired in Los Angeles. So those are the biggest challenge. Like if you win 2 of the 3 games, or all, the 3 games you have left, 1 against the Chargers and both against Kansas City, you're in the driver's seat. And otherwise you're going to be scratching and clawing with, several other teams to try to make the wild card.
The big one is coming on November 16 when they host the Chiefs. Now, they can't lose sight of the fact that they've got winnable games coming up, and they should win most, if not all, of the games between now and then. But that's really going to be the test. What can you do against the Chiefs? In a year when the Chiefs seem to be down, and every time it feels like they're getting up, they're down again. This does feel like the opportunity for the Broncos, the best opportunity they've had in years, especially since Patrick Mahomes became the starter, to reassert themselves as maybe the best team in the division.
Yeah, I agree with you. That opportunity is there. That game in mid-November falls in a really interesting spot in the Broncos calendar because they play Vegas on Thursday night the week prior. So they've got the mini bye, extra rest going into that game, and then their bye week is after that. So it's the only game on the calendar in like a 23-day span or something like that. So it falls in a unique spot just from a scheduling perspective. And then obviously, they've beaten Kansas City at home 2 straight years. Now, last year you put the asterisk next to it because it was week 18. The Chiefs they were locked into seeding. They didn't play any of their guys. But it was the year before that when the Broncos finally, broke the 16-game streak, beat Kansas City. So they've split the last 4. Obviously, you can discount the one at Empower Field last year, but they also should have won at Arrowhead before the blocked field goal. So it's been a team that Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator, has really done a good job defensively against. They've allowed 2 offensive touchdowns in the last 4 games they've played against Kansas City. He's figured out ways to make life difficult for Patrick Mahomes. And then it's just a matter of, can they deal with the Steve Spagnuolo defense and put enough points on the board to be in position to win? So yeah, obviously some ground to cover before then, some miles to travel, but that's going to be a big one in the AFC West.
Hey, Parker, I was peeking ahead to the post-bye schedule. They better get the wins while they can, because it's a meat grinder down the stretch.
Yeah, it is. And especially, you go, even if just look at the closing kick, Christmas night, Thursday night at Kansas City, and then the Chargers at home week 18, it would be a little bit of a surprise. And then obviously, every year in the NFL, there's games that don't end up looking the way that you thought they were going to look. Bengals have already been one. Indianapolis was one. Indianapolis looks really good. You're watching them, you're like, man, this offense is pretty sweet. And then you look down the stretch, Packers, they get Micah Parsons. You got the Jaguars, who are off to a great start. And then obviously at Kansas City Christmas night, and the Chargers to close. So that's a brutal run. And you would think those 2 division games, some way, somehow at the end of the season, one of them or both of them are going to mean a lot.
And that week 15, that week 16 game, we're getting into the territory where flexing can happen to Sunday night, to Thursday night, to Monday night. Those 2 games now start to stand out. Packers, Broncos, different vibe now than it had when the schedule came out. And Broncos, Jaguars, much different vibe now. And I think we'll continue to have a bigger and bigger vibe as we get deeper into the season, so they can have more primetime games. That's just one of the prices that you have to pay for being a good team. Parker, enjoy London, safe travels home, and we really appreciate some of your time. Great conversation. Hope to catch up again.
Yeah, thanks for having me anytime.
There he is, Parker Gabriel of the Denver Post, and the Broncos moving in the right direction for now. But man, I was talking to my son last night about how injuries really do change everything. 5 weeks ago, the season started, and look at how much it's changed, largely because of injuries. Joe Burrow and the Bengals are cooked. Lamar Jackson and many other injuries. And it feels like the Ravens are cooked. And it really is a war of attrition. But the injury bug can show up at any time. And just when everything is going well, this guy's hurt, this guy's hurt, this guy's hurt, and everything changes. We're going to change the topic when we return. We'll stay in the AFC West, because Andy Reid had something to say yesterday about the play that everybody was talking about coming out of Monday night's game, the back end of the slip 6, when a certain high-profile player decided not to risk slipping and falling or really doing anything at all, when Chris Jones kind of stood there and watched Trevor Lawrence score. We'll talk about that next, and we'll get some insights from Tony Dungy on that and other coach-related issues when PFT Live continues right after this. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.